Now then, Skulk Hollow is a two-player semi-asymmetric game that'll have you going head to try and destroy one another. By which I mean trying to kill one another. One player will play as the Fox and Folk army, the other a giant stone-stomping guardian. The last player to be a fox goes first. By which I mean the fox player goes first. Every single game. Skulk Hollow is vaguely asymmetric, meaning both players are more or less doing completely different things. But also they're kind of doing basically the exact same thing. For the most part, you'll be maneuvering your pieces around this tiny field like the world's smallest game of chess, to eventually engage in card-based combat. When the Foxen leader dies or the Guardian eventually succumbs, the game ends. So let's look at the Foxen first. Ah, foxes! That sounds cute. Everyone likes little foxes. No, not these foxes. These foxes are foxes that by which I mean they're foxes that fight. You wouldn't want to be cuddling these angry looking, snarling figures. So, you know, get ready to spend the rest of the game looking at them. Now then, as the foxy fighters, you take the main role of some form of the fox royalty, and you'll be placing down like a number of unit cards to recruit an ever increasing army, and eventually taking the fight to the Goliath as you're defending your city from destruction. And you'll be using movement cards to do movements, or attack the fell beast with attack the fell beast cards. But when it comes to actually combating this fell beast, Skulk Hollow takes notes from great video games such as Shadow the Colossus or Dragon's Dogma, and that's right, you've got to get up on that Hydra's back. You can, playing a card, leap from around these big stomping feet onto the big stomping feet on this comically oversized board depicting one of 4 of your big beastie boys. As your Fennec force crawls over this monster, leaping from position to position, they will be stabbing its weak points for massive damage, but more importantly, also stopping it from doing any of its actions. Like, Grak can't do a big stomp if its big stomping feet have all been turned into big stabby feet, because it's gonna hurt when you start stomping on your stabbed feet. Once you've eventually filled up every single one of these positions, your Arctic army has felled the fell beast. The fell beast has fallen. It is now a full beast. So, as the foxes, you're just mainly trying to overwhelm the beast with as many units as possible, like swarming ants, to eventually just bring it down before it can stomp your little king to death. But surely only having 3 actions in a turn, which includes placing down new units, is going to be quite limiting. Well, some of your cards allow you to gain these orange translucent energy cubes, which you can slot onto certain bits of your soldiers, so that in the future you basically get, with that person, a completely free action on them. So like a free movement, or a free stab, or a free leap, which is great, because now you can do loads of things. Trying to position your units into their right spots around this rabble raiser can be difficult, because you're trying to make sure your archers are, surrounding the beast, taking pot shots from afar, all while your rogues and knights ascend the beast to do murder. But, I mean, that's the foxes, but what about the guardian player? Well, let's rotate the board. Well, playing as the Guardian is realistically no different. Except here, you're not trying to be killed, you're trying to kill the fox leader. That one, to be exact. You also have your own unique win condition in which, for example, Grak here wants to just try and kill as many possible fox units as it can. And let me tell you here and now, playing as the Guardian sucks. First and foremost, as the Guardian, you can only do 2 actions. And most of those actions, you probably don't want to do anyway. You'll still be like shifting around the board, trying to position yourself optimally, but at the same time, you also have a number of attacks that you can do to try and hopefully kill the foxes and their ruler. And these are unique to each and every Guardian. Grak, for example, can stomp enemy units away, swing at their feet to hit those that share the same space, or give the foxes a cruel stare to hurt those surrounding the giant beast. I feel the need to remind you at this point that you only have 2 actions. And that's not necessarily even taking into account the fact that you're limited by what actions you have in your hand, as well as what actions you have available to you, because they've all been stabbed to death. Like, playing as the Guardian is so limiting on your turn that you'll rarely find yourself in a position where you want to do what you want to do. And cycling through this deck to be able to get back to those cards takes forever, and it's such a labor to get back to the cards that you want to use. Now, you might be thinking, Grak, what do you do when you've got a fox running up your thigh, shanking everything it can? Well, it's simple. You use a throw action, which, launches a fox from you into the surrounding areas. Awesome, cool. There is only one of those cards in the entire deck, ignoring the free action. So that's great. Let's hope there's not too many foxes on you. Oh God. And you might also be wondering, Grak, what do you do when you've taken too many hits on a thing so you can no longer, do the throw action that's vital for survival? That's easy. You just use a mend action. Fix that right up. Oh, there we go. However, there are only 2 of those in the deck, and well, let's just hope that you actually have them in your hand when you desperately need those cards. Your turns very rapidly become a case of damage management. Let's say you've got 2 foxes on you right here. They're on your throw action. They've stabbed it to death. You can no longer throw those things off. So on your go, you've lucked out, thankfully, and you've got a mend action to mend one of the little hearts. Hooray! And even better, you've also actually managed to get the throw action in your hand. So you launch one of these little foxes off of you. That is your entire go. You've not moved, you've not really done anything, and you've still got a fox on you that next turn can just, or most likely, stab your throw action again, kind of almost doing, just undoing your entire turn, because also, the thing you threw off, it's probably going to, move and jump back onto you. And what's the point of your go? The worst part is, to even, that was a good go in terms of repairing yourself and trying to counter these things. It could be another 4 or 5 goes or more before you even begin to cycle through your deck again to try and do another throw, if it's still up. It probably won't be up, and let's be honest, your mend is also probably at the bottom of your deck. So what if you were to instead charge head first at the fox leader and try and take it down with swing after swing after swing? Well, guess what? If the fox leader occupies the same space as any other fox unit, guess who doesn't take any damage? That's right, it's the fox leader. They don't take any damage. Great. Well, also, I guess you can try and stop units from climbing onto you, kick them out of the way where they're on the floor, using your big stomping actions. Kick stuff out of the way. Yeah, sounds like a great plan. However, the knight fox warriors, the moment they step on your space, they automatically mount you, so good luck trying to get rid of those. And the little rogue ones, well, they're so nimble and so fast moving that the moment they do a leap action onto you, well, they leap onto any spot on your board to immediately start just taking that down. What are you meant to do? The odds feel so stacked against the Guardian here that I begin to wonder if maybe they're even the bad guy at all. Let me just read some of the lore. Nope, they are the bad guys. I was hoping for this joke to be like, oh no, I've misinterpreted things. Maybe the foxes are the bad guys after all. Like, the environmental monsters are the good guys trying to reclaim the world. No, the giant guardians, they're evil. They're horrible, horrible creatures that need to be destroyed. And that's it. Despite these massive wooden pieces and these massive wooden boards, the Guardians don't feel strong, they feel weak. The Guardians are so easily overwhelmed, and I'm aware part of this is down to, well, Grak being quite a terrible opening Guardian. But while the other Guardians in the box are more interesting and have more interesting things going on, they are also kind of heavily limited by this card-based system that has you needing so many different unique actions, but there's only like one or two of the really vital ones in your entire deck, meaning that you just can't use any of them. The idea here is that the little foxy boys are meant to be defending their city from being trampled to death, right, by the big Guardian. But what happens if your big Guardian stomps all over down to the Fox and City? Literally nothing. The colossal titan doesn't penetrate these walls. Instead, you just kind of turn around again and start stomping around because you've got to try and find the fox leader who is just playing a game of cat and mouse with you. Like, these are meant to be giant, intimidating, colossal creatures, and instead you spend so much of the game just shifting and shuffling around a map for no real reason. Change the open field for the city itself. Like, have the Guardian being destructive across the city, and the aim is to try and stop the Guardian before it destroys the whole city. Like, that way the Guardian has more of a reason to move around the board other than just some side objectives for some of them, or like to try and chase the main objective around, which is the tiny, tiny king. As the Guardian player, you're so limited in what you can do on each go that you start your turn, you'll look at your hand and you'll think, what can I do? Instead of, when you look at your hand, and you should be thinking, what can I do? You know, you're not necessarily ever presented with a plethora of good options. If you're lucky, you'll have a good option to pick, and then obviously you'll pick that one. Most of the time, you look at your hand and you're presented with too many bad options, and that's all you've got. You've just got bad options. You've got to try and pick the worst of the options. What you want is so many good options that you feel like a kid in the candy shop. Instead, you've got so many bad options that you feel like, you know when you go to the orthodontist and they ask what colour bands you want on your braces? Sure, I have a preference, but the location I find myself making this preference is less than ideal. But then playing as the foxes is also kind of boring. Like, in the box you have 4 different guardians to play, and they all play kind of differently. Excellent! The foxes, however, are just the foxes. Sure, you've got like different leaders who all have vaguely different special abilities, but that's kind of it. They all are just an extra bit of spice of variation instead of a major change into how they play, because obviously the main change in the game is working out how to take on each and every Guardian. In which the answer is to just completely overwhelm them with units, because that's the best strategy. Just absolutely cover them in units, and they can't really do anything else. I don't hate Skulk Hollow. I like the idea of Skulk Hollow, like an asymmetric two-player game that sets a load of tiny units against a giant single unit. It sounds really fun and interesting, but the card-based combat system just lets the game down, partly down to the Guardian having no meaningful moves and the Fox player having hundreds and hundreds of moves. It is a simple game, and it is an easy game to pick up and play and teach, and it's quick and fun, and the theme is great with these colourful pieces and boards and like these teeny tiny fox meeples and these giant stonking huge Guardian meeples. It's so fun. I want to like this game. Like, I don't hate it, I've said that before, but I just don't actually like it. It has a cool and unique idea of a two-player sort of David and Goliath asymmetrical fight. It's just not well realised. Like, so much potential of the Guardian player starting out laughing like ho 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 as these puny tiny foxes try and like nip at its ankles, and then the true underdog story is somehow, maybe through thick and thin, they can bring this giant Colossus down. But instead of this climactic battle to save the kingdom, it feels more like animal cruelty. And not against the tiny foxes, against the giant monster that is so routinely on the back foot and so rarely has a moment that it feels powerful, that, like, it just feels mean. There is a sort of second version, Mole Peak, coming out. It's in the same series with bears. Maybe that time, next time, it'll be better. They'll have a better sense of balance between the Guardians and the little critters. But also, it could just be more of the exact same experience. Hello, and thank you for watching my video. I realised I was wearing a thematically appropriate t-shirt because look, there's a teeny tiny little fox on it. That's fun. You didn't see that during the entire video because I sat on the floor behind a box because I live in squalor. Man, just think, you got to see something great being a small fox on a t-shirt due to the fact that you've watched this to the end. It's the only good thing about this. Anyway, if you want, you can check out some other videos I've done. There is one here, which is a board game review about Valley, or the Valley of the Kings, which is about a deck building game where you're slowly dying. It's cool. Otherwise, there's a video game video about the video game Hades, which is specifically about who is the most dateable in the video game Hades. It's dumb, it's fun, maybe, it's possibly good. Check it out. Or you can click on my face orb, where there is my face on my face orb, to subscribe. Thank you, and goodbye.